seed oils. One study followed nearly 10,000 people who swapped butter for vegetable oil. Their cholesterol dropped, but their death rate went up. So who's right about seed oils? I'm Elliot Hayes. Welcome to MedHeads. The seed oil debate has become a culture war. On one side, influencers calling canola oil a metabolic poison. On the other, nutrition scientists rolling their eyes. Both camps cherry-pick. The actual evidence? More interesting than either side admits. Seed oils, canola, sunflower, soybean, corn, safflower, come from seeds and grains, usually via industrial processing. They're high in polyunsaturated fats, particularly one called linoleic acid, an omega-6 fatty acid. For most of human history, we ate very little of this. Today, seed oils are in almost everything processed, and our omega-6 intake has roughly doubled since the 1960s, while omega-3 intake has stayed flat. That shift is the core of the anti-seed oil argument. Too much omega-6 drives inflammation, and inflammation drives disease. But here's the problem with that theory. It doesn't quite survive contact with the actual trials. Linoleic acid does get converted in the body into a compound called arachidonic acid, which can generate inflammatory signals. So the concern isn't crazy. But multiple systematic reviews and randomized controlled trials have looked directly at whether higher linoleic acid intake raises inflammatory markers in humans. The short answer, mostly no. A 2022 review found omega-6 fatty acids did not provoke an inflammatory response and had broadly neutral to beneficial effects across metabolic health markers. The body appears to tightly regulate how much linoleic acid converts to arachidonic acid. More omega-6 in your diet doesn't automatically mean more inflammation, at least not in healthy people. But this is where things get genuinely complicated, because when researchers actually ran the long-term trials, they got some uncomfortable results. In 2016, researchers published recovered data from the Minnesota coronary experiment, a trial run in the 1960s and 70s. Nearly 9,500 hospital patients swapped saturated fat for corn oil rich in linoleic acid. Cholesterol dropped, just as predicted, but the patients whose cholesterol dropped the most had a higher risk of death, not lower. This wasn't an outlier. A similar pattern appeared in another trial, the Sydney Diet Heart Study. However, and this is critical, both studies used early polyunsaturated margarines that contained trans fats. We know trans fats raise the risk of heart disease. Untangling linoleic acid from that confound is genuinely hard. The Cochrane collaboration's 2020 meta-analysis, which pooled all the best available trials, found replacing saturated fat with polyunsaturated fat does reduce cardiovascular events by around 17% over roughly 5 years. So the big picture still favors swapping butter for plant oils for heart health. The evidence is just messier than either side admits. Here's where the critics make a genuinely good point. Polyunsaturated fats are chemically unstable at high temperatures. Heat seed oils to frying temperatures, and especially if you reuse the oil, they break down and produce compounds called aldehydes. Research from De Montfort University, published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2021, showed that sunflower oil produced nearly 4 times the aldehydes of a low polyunsaturated oil under the same frying conditions. Aldehydes are reactive compounds that can damage DNA and proteins in high doses. The key word is dose. Drizzling cold-pressed olive oil on a salad is a completely different situation from deep frying repeatedly in the same bottle of sunflower oil. So where does all of this actually leave us? Seed oils are not the metabolic poison the internet claims. The inflammation argument doesn't hold up in the trials, and the best available evidence still suggests swapping saturated fat for polyunsaturated fat reduces cardiovascular risk overall. But the critics aren't entirely wrong. Heating polyunsaturated oils to high temperatures, especially repeatedly, produces compounds that warrant real caution. The practical takeaway: vary your fats. Use olive oil or avocado oil for high heat cooking. Save seed oils for cold applications or light use. And spend less energy worrying about what oil you drizzled on dinner and more attention on what you're eating overall. The evidence doesn't land where the loudest voices want it to. That's usually a sign it's closer to the truth. What do you use in your kitchen? Still cooking with seed oils? Or have you made the switch? Comment below and tell me what's in your pantry right now. And if you want more honest, evidence-first explainers like this one, hit subscribe. There's more coming.